There are literally fucking kids right now outside of my room. They drank my mango juice, which I tried to save, and they ate my pack of candies that cannot be bought in Hong Kong. They are only found in Belgium. So, I mean, three hours in my room, 3 hours in my room, and my entire apartment is totally fucked. Hey, by the way, I'm not biracial. What's up? And today I'm gonna do another mini albums review, and this time I wrote an entire A4 paper worth of script just to do. Oh shit! I almost dropped the piece of paper. And today I'm gonna talk about Lil Wayne, The Carter 5, Logic's Young Sinatra 4, Kero Kero Bonito, Time and Place. I'll be talking about Guerilla Toss, Twisted Crystal, and Noname, Room 25. So, let's start off by talking about the new Lil Wayne album, The Carter 5, which is the 5th installment of the Carter series. And, he had been promoting this album for quite a while. In fact, he had been talking about this new album for 6 years, ever since 2012. But ever since there's this huge legal conflict between Lil Wayne and Birdman, and thus the album is postponed. And this is the year 2018. Why does it look like that my things are gonna fall? It's the year 2018, and he had finally released The Carter 5. You know, Lil Wayne, he is actually one of the few rappers who had influenced a lot of other rappers, like Young Thug, and even Kendrick Lamar is sort of influenced by him a little bit. And he had a few funny one-liners here and there. His persona is really, I guess, appealing on the album, and he has some good delivery and flows on the album. But this album is 90 minutes long, and it has 23 tracks, and therefore it's very inconsistent. But the album still starts off really strongly with the track Don't Cry featuring XXXTentacion, and it's a really emotional and haunting and heavy and surreal song that, even though it's laced with autotune, it still sounds quite hard-hitting. And by the way, I'm going to try to go through all 23 of these tracks under 8 minutes or so, so bear with me here. The second track, Dedicate, is more charismatic with the playful bars, and overall the instrumentals sound very goofy and funky, and it still has its trap influences, but still, I really love the song. I like one of the I especially love one of the verses on the track where Lil Wayne uses the word rock in all sorts of different ways and versions, and I think that's pretty smart. And we have the track Uproar, the third track, which is a real banger, with the screaming crowd samples and all that. The flow is extremely groovy, and the beat is awesome. And then we have the track Let It Fly featuring Travis Scott. It has a very average Travis Scott vibe to it. While Travis and Lil Wayne has good chemistry on the track, it's still meh, pretty average, pretty generic. Then we have the track Can't Be Broken, which has some chipmunk vocals and pianos as the intro, but then after that it breaks into this lo-fi trap rap, and the chord progression of this track is really weak. But then again, the album hits yet another peak with Dark Side of the Moon featuring Nicki Minaj. Even though it's not super poetic or anything, it's a very moody and beautiful love R&B song. The vocal harmonies are surprisingly really nice, and the chorus is kind of glossy, and the vocals are soaring, and I love it. And then we have the track Mona Lisa featuring Kendrick Lamar, who has a very over-the-top and animated flow. I didn't like it all that much because the chord progression is a little pop-oriented and goofy, and even though the flow is very whack and zany, and there's a lot of characteristic to it, I don't care for the track, not really. Alright. Look how many things have I written. Alright, here we go. The track What About Me is a glitzy trap rap song, but it completely fails because it's just really bland. The vocals, they are very sanitized, and the auto-tune is extremely thick, and I think the cries of Lil Wayne, they're just kind of cringy. The track Open Letter is interesting lyrically, but instrumentally, it's really weak, and it tries to be entrancing and futuristic, but really fails, because once again, it's really bland. It's really generic. The track Famous has some trite piano chords, and a very Macklemore, Eminem pop flavor to it, especially it reminds me of Eminem's Recovery, and the flow is meh, so nothing that special. The track Problems is really obnoxious, to be honest. It's a plain trap song with a very sloppy performance, and once again, it tries to be futuristic but really fails because of how mundane it is. And then we have Dope African Americans, and it features Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg is actually not that bad on this track, but because of how the beat loops over and over again, it just turns stale as time goes by. Well, the beat is okay, but the delivery is still very generic. And then we have the track Haters, which is a cold-blooded banger, but that's pretty much the extent of it. It's very monotone and slow in terms of flow. That rhymes, and I don't care for it as much as well. And then the album hits yet another peak with the track Took His Time, which is a song about faith and God, and I think the instrumentals are very nice, they're very sticky, and the vocals, they are actually good for some reason. But then the album dives back down with the track Open Safe, which has a very dated, stale style, and I do appreciate how it has this fast-paced music box beat, but as time goes by, it just becomes very stale and very bland. The track Start This Shit Off Right is a smooth bling rap track that's extremely outdated, and the lyrics are very underwhelming. And we have the track Demon, which has a very awkward flow, which sounds completely out of place, and it sort of has this Jay-Z, Kanye West soul sample style that doesn't quite play out well. And then we have the track Mess, which sounds very messy, even though there are sweet acoustic guitars on this thing, which is pretty good, I guess. The flow is still very disjointed. And then we have the track Dope New Gospel, which is a very bland and boring song, probably the blandest song on the entire track list. It's basically this soul trap song. And then we have the track Perfect Strangers, which is you know what? This track is even more bland. It's super slow, super sleepy, and Lil Wayne is singing the whole time, and it doesn't sound that good. But the album sort of ends off strongly with the track Used To, and Let It All Work Out. The former track is pretty hard-hitting, and I really like the melodic, freaky instrumentals, while the latter of the two, Let It All Work Out, is a very triumphant, feel-good track about perseverance, and it's a very uplifting and forward ending for the track. And overall, this album is a little here and there, even though Lil Wayne is, you can see talents in Lil Wayne, of course, but this album is a mixed bag. It's here and there. It's very inconsistent. And you can literally hear Lil Wayne trying to do the Drake R&B thing, but then he's trying to do the Kanye West soul thing, and then he's trying to do the Eminem Macklemore pop thing, and then he's trying to do the generic trap rap thing. It's a little trite. So my favorite track here is Uproar, and my least favorite, Problems. I am giving Lil Wayne's the Carter 5 a 6 out of 10. Then let's talk about another album that has been very viral, and that is Logic's Young Sinatra 4. And this is the fourth installment on his Young Sinatra series, which is basically a series of boom bap music. Boom bap is a type of hip-hop, a subgenre of hip-hop, which blends, West Coast beats with very chopped up samples and yada yada. It's very common in Nas's music, as well as a Wu-Tang Clan, or Wu-Tang Clan, as I like to call it. But yeah, this album, it has a lot of long songs. And I guess the biggest disappointment of this album is that after listening to this album, it doesn't feel all that different than all his previous Young Sinatra projects. Well, I can definitely see that Logic is a talented person, and he's definitely a good guy. But, this album is just not that great. The album sort of starts off with Thank You, which is 7 minutes long, and it's this bland, spacey boom bap song with all these motivational bars. And the biggest flaw of this track, however, is the very, I guess, the corny motivational fan voicemail clips. It's scattered all over the track, and if you're not a diehard Logic fan, you'll probably find this annoying. And other than that, the overall sound of the track sounds very sanitized. And then we have the track Everybody Dies, which is actually pretty damn good, not gonna lie. It's this rapid fire mixtape Logic song. It's super fast, it's super energetic and aggressive, and Logic brags a lot on this track, and as well as the other track on the album. And while it may sound like he's being cocky, but I guess it's part of the style, maybe. But still, his flow is extremely good, and the beat is really nice. And the next track, The Return, is similar to Everybody Dies. It has a different beat, but it's just as energetic as Everybody Dies, and it's fun. It's fun while it lasted. And then we have the track The Glorious Five, which is moodier and it has a more feel-good vibe to it. And Logic. What am I on? Logic talks about family problems on this track, and I think it works pretty well. And again, the instrumentals, it's pretty nice. But then the album really trails off on this track, One Day. While I like the positive message behind the track One Day, I just don't like the glam pianos. They are really trite and generic, and it has this Macklemore vibe to it that's really annoying, and it's trying too hard to be glitzy, glossy, and Ryan Tedder's verse is just meh at best. And then we have the track Wu Tong Forever, which is 8 minutes long, and it features the entire clan. Jizza, RZA, Inspector Deck, Master Killa, Cabadonna. I don't have to list them all right now, right? I do like the hard-hitting beat, and I like how the entire Wu-Tang Clan is on this thing. But RZA's verse is kind of awkward for some reason, and Jizza doesn't appear enough on this track. In fact, a lot of the members don't appear enough on this track. So, And then we have the track 100 Miles and Running, which I actually like quite a bit. It's very fun, funky, and humorous, and the flow is amazing, especially towards the end where Logic spits a super fast verse. Somebody slammed the door. Okay, but yeah, usually I'm not that impressed with fast rapping, but Logic fast rapping with a nice flow, I actually do kind of enjoy it. And Wale's feature is actually not that bad. And then we have Ordinary Day, featuring Haley Steinfeld, and it's a pretty basic pop rap track with a dance beat. There are some speedy hi-hats all over this thing, and some really weak and forgettable vocals. And Haley Steinfeld singing is, it's not that good, and she doesn't appear all that much on the track either, so I don't know what she's doing here. And then we have the title track, YSIV, which stands for Young Sinatra 4, of course. I'm not dumb. But it's a really generic, average boom bap track with a Nas Life's a Bitch sample. And while I think the beat switch is decent, and I also really love one of the verses of this track where Logic raps in the standpoint of money. And he doesn't just reveal that he's rapping as money and right out the bat, but he kind of reveals it at the end, and I think that's really smart. And but still, overall, the track is just average at best. And then we have the track Street Dreams 2, Instrumentally speaking, it's okay. Lyrically, it's pretty dumb. It's like a very bad M. Night Shyamalan action movie. It's basically the last act of an action movie. You know, explosions, car chase, gunshots. You know, and Logic's wife being abducted. But turns out Logic actually abducted the wife himself. And then at the end, he wakes up because it's a dream. It's a street dream. So, yeah. And then we have the track of The Adventures of Stony Bob, which is a pretty generic stoner track. I do like the hook, however. The vocals are pretty nice and cheeky. But the features, they are very lifeless. And they don't provide anything, necessarily. The track Legacy is actually pretty sad, where Logic talks about health and family, but Logic sounds really rushed on this track for some reason. And the track Iconic features Jaden Smith, and it sounds more like a Jaden Smith track than a Logic track, because the samples, they sound like they're straight off of Sire, you know? And then at the end, we have Last Call, you know, Kanye did it, Cole did it, so Logic must do it, right? And it's this 11-minute long track where Logic talks about his life story. And if you're not a hardcore Logic fan, you would probably find this kind of boring and a little too much, because 11 minutes long, really? So overall, while I think Logic's talented, and I think he's good at rapping, and I think he's a good guy with his positive messages and all, but still this album is really inconsistent. Just like the Carter 5, and yeah. My favorite track here is Everybody Dies, and my least favorite is Ordinary Day, and my score for this album is a 5 out of 10. I need to slow down right now because I want this score to keep in the screen. Alright, let's talk about good albums. Kero Kero Bonito with Time and Place, and UK Japanese trio Kero Kero Bonito. They're back, and they have released an EP prior to this album, and it's not that good. Alright, but their first album, Bonito Generation, is actually really good. So I look forward to this album nonetheless. The album starts off with Outside. I have to talk about this track. I don't know why, but I have this personal connection with this track for some reason. When I listen to this track, I'm just like, I don't know, there's this connection. It just clicked, you know, instantly. And this track is basically intense euphoria. Pure, intense euphoria. It's so dreamy, so powerfully dreamy and other dimensional. I'm dying while listening to the track. My entire soul is decaying and being transported to a whole new dimension of dreams and imaginations. And oh my gosh, this track is just, it's haunting. It's haunting in a weird way. And I really love the loud, sunburned guitars and the vocals. They are very sanitized. Sarah's vocals, they're very sanitized and cute, but they play in a way that it makes the song sort of, I guess, other dimensional, angelic almost. And then we have the track Time Today, which has some sentimental keys and a very swinging beat, and it's very catchy and lighthearted as well. And the lyrics, they celebrate little things in life, which is a pretty cool topic and a pretty usual topic that Kero Kero Bonito usually talks about. And then we have the track Only Acting. Which is one of my favorite singles of the year so far already. And then we have the track Only Acting. Fuck. I've already said, you know, I've already said that sentence for like 3 times because my family members keep interrupting me. But anyway, Only Acting is already one of my favorite tracks. Why is my phone freaking out? Why is my phone glitching? What the fuck? Alright, Only Acting. One of my favorite singles of the year so far already. And it's alright, I've said that already. Damn it. Yeah, it talks about acting and performing, and it's a really smart track lyrically. But instrumentally, it's awesome as well. At first, it's this lo-fi indie pop thing, but then when it hits the chorus, it just becomes this noisy, loud, expressive, fun, roaring alternative rock song. And we also get all these noisy, crazy, other dimensional transitions on this track. That's really damn amazing. And then we have the track Flyway, and similar to Outside, it's really noisy, it has these Sunbird guitars, and it's very dreamy and sweet and fast-paced. And it's yet another really catchy and dreamy alt-rock song that I love. And then we have the track Dump, which is just okay. It has some cool synths, but it's very low-key and pretty weak. And then we have the track Make Believe, which is another indie rock pop song with some candy sweet chords, and it's a song about maintaining innocence while, facing the cruel, messed up reality of our world. And it's a good song. It's catchy, and I love it. The track Dear Future Self, I've listened to this track many times, but I don't find myself enjoying it all that much. It's a glistening synth pop song, but it feels kind of blunt, as it sounds like a kid's song, maybe. And then we have the track Visiting Hours, which is middle of the road. I like that it's very uplifting and forward-thinking, but, And then we have the track If I'd Known. I'm actually a little on the fence with this track. I do kind of like how funky and goofy it sounds, and the verses, they're actually pretty catchy and disorienting, but I guess I don't like how lo-fi it is, but it may grow on me, who knows. And then we have the track Sometimes, which is surprisingly sort of this lo-fi, organic country pop song that's very sweet. And the track Swimming is like Flyway, but slower and softer. And once again, it's this very dreamy, nostalgic, sweet indie pop song that I love. And the album ends off with Rest Stop, where the trio really experiments, like really. While, the first half of the track is really dreamy and nostalgic, but then the second half just becomes very weird and off-kiltered and dissonant, with the very quiet singing, the drums, the sequence drums, and the stuttery, noisy sound effects in the background that keeps on getting louder and louder until the entire song fizzes out. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, my favorite track is Only Acting, and my least favorite is Dump. I'm giving Kero Kero Bonito's Time and Place an 8 out of 10. And then we have the new Guerilla Toss album, Twisted Crystal. Yeah, gotta do the twisting action, And Guerilla Toss, they make some freaky, tongue-in-cheek pop rock songs with odd grooves, but this time it's even zanier, it's even more odd, it's even more experimental, and I do enjoy it. The album starts off with Magic is Easy. Oh, by the way, this album is like 39 minutes long or something, and it has 9 tracks. So similar to their last album, it's not that ambitious, but that's also one of the reasons why I like this album. The album starts off with Magic is Easy, with the slinky guitar riffs and the very bouncy bass. However, what I don't like about this track is that the pace is very slow and tedious, and it's not all that exciting, so it's kind of awkward. But then the album gets crazy with Jesus Rabbit, which is very cheeky, witty, wordy, and funny. And, it's this dark sense of humor that the band has on this track that makes this track sort of stands out. And this track also has these bleepy synths, and the hook is very catchy. Jesus, Jesus. The third track is titled Meteorological, and man, I love this song. Haha. The drum beat, they're very busy and bustly, and it sounds like it's an intro for a live news segment on TV, and it's like a slideshow because it slides so smoothly. And then we have the bass, which is very groovy, and the synths, they sort of comes in about a minute or so after the track has started, and they're very shimmery, and they reminds me of Cute Things by Car Seat Headrest, the remake of Cute Things. And it's a very catchy, fun rap song. I want to act natural, meteorological. And yeah, and then we have the track Hacking Machine. I love how weird and freaky the song is, but I don't really get the appeal of it all that much, even though I still like it. It has a very strange vibe to it. It's very stiff, it's very blunt. The vocals, they sound incredibly naive, especially the way the vocals are manipulated on this track. It's manipulated so that it sounds like it's sung underwater and it's trembling. It's like the vocals, they're just so weak. The instrumentals can easily manipulate it and, mess with it. And then we have the track Retreat, which is not as exciting lyrically and instrumentally speaking. It's kind of messy, it's kind of here and there. And, And then we have the track Come Up With Me, which is actually really cute, really genuine, and really straightforward with the speedy bass and the sticky chorus. And we have the track Walls of Universe, or Walls of the Universe. I forgot. Yeah, it's this super dreamy, weird LSD song. It sounds like you're on LSD. And it's very slow paced. It's kind of one-dimensional. But, however, I do like how it builds the atmosphere. And it's just LSD. It's intergalactic. And then we have the track Jackie's Daughter, which is easily my favorite track off of the album. And it kind of reminds me of Spoons, I Turn My Camera On, but it's way more advanced than that. It's super duper catchy. The guitars, they are sort of stuttering a little bit, and it's just really catchy and sticky. The vocals layers are amazing, and the synths, they sound like cats purring or meowing, Look out, Jackie, and she's got a daughter. And the album ends off with Green Apple, which has a very busy, trippy beat with the wailing synths and the guitars sort of climbing. And I also really love the melody of this thing. It's really quirky, and overall, seeing Guerilla Toss going extra experimental on this album is really intriguing, and I love the overall weird, quirky tone of the album. I'm giving it an 8, and my favorite track here is Jackie's Daughter, and my least favorite is Retreat. And then now let's talk about the final album of the agenda. Final album. Noname. Noname with Room 25. Alright, Noname. She's sort of known for her very soft spoken rap delivery that's really smooth, soothing, and sexy even. And this album, it incorporates jazz even more. I'm running out of time. The album starts off with a very great, nice, warm intro cut titled Self, and it's this really relaxing, jazzy piece of intro with some really cheeky and witty lyrics. I mean, Noname has a really good sense of humor, not gonna lie. The album sort of starts off by talking about, maybe you're listening to this album in your car thinking about all sorts of religions, Kanye bitches, and, the way Noname guides its listeners into the album is really smart. And then with the track Blaxploitation, and it sounds very urgent, it's a little freaky, the beat is kind of rickety, and we have these vocal snippets that play out really well, and it doesn't bog the track at all. We have the track Prayer Song, which is more mystical, more somber, and, Noname spits some grim and dark bars about empty American dreams. And then we have the track Window, which is one of my favorites of the album, to be honest. The instrumentals are really nice. They have this jazzy music box vibe to it. The strings, the harps, they go really well together. The second verse of the track is really sharp and smart. And I like how the track sounds like beach reggae, but at the same time it's jazzy. And the singing on this track is amazing as well. And then you have the track Don't Forget About Me, which is a very laid-back jazz track. And it basically deals with fame, family, legacy, and the vocal melodies. They're amazing as well. They're very gentle, they're very soft, and very welcoming. And then we have the track Regal, which is probably the weakest track off of the entire track list. It's very lo-fi, the rapping is very quiet. However, the instrumentals sort of swell towards the end. They sort of gets louder, and it hits a crescendo, but still, a majority of the track doesn't sound all that interesting. And then we have the track Montego Bay, which is very lively, very catchy. Raven Lene kills it on this track, and the bass, it's killer, man. It's very groovy as well, and the vocals, they are very catchy and cute. We have the track Ace, which has a soul sample. It's slow, it's lo-fi, and it's mainly R&B track. I don't hate this track, but it's, I guess, not the best ones. We have the track Part of Me, which is a very heavy, deep-sounding track. But, once again, the singing is fantastic on this track. We have the track With You, which I'm a little on the fence with, because the drums are extremely disjointed. But, the choir vocals, they're beautiful. And the album ends off with No Name, which is a pretty strong ending to the album with some conclusive lyrics. And overall, I like the album, okay? I like the album. It's not super great, but it's good. It's good. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. And my favorite track is... This is actually a really good question. What's my favorite track? I guess Window would be amazing, or Montego Bay. Yeah, Montego Bay. And my least favorite here is Regal. And have you listened to these 5 albums from 1 to 10? How much you rate them? Like if you like them, hate if you hate them, and subscribe if you want more. And don't worry, I'll do a review on that 21 Pilots album. All right, I'll do a full length review.